Live, live, live. What's up, fishing fam? Welcome back. Tonight, Freedom Squad live stream. Got to tell everybody, welcome to the Freedom Squad. We're going to rebrand it. We're going to go from Two Brothers Fishing. Me, Matt, and Jeremy are going to lean heavily into promoting Freedom Squad. A lot of you that have been around Fishing with Gramps channel for the last few years know that the three of us, all disabled veterans, got on the water as like our own form of veteran recreational therapy. But of course, we encourage everyone because, after everything we've had to deal with for the last few years, who couldn't use a little recreation therapy? But the outdoors is a great way to do it. My brother Jeremy, when he was going through the VA domiciliary, learned about recreation therapy through their therapy program. And our other buddy, Matt, who is veteran of the various wars. Mr. OEF5 is his tag, so we all know he was there for Operation Enduring Freedom. And of course, while I did not serve in combat, my father did, my son did. I've got three sons that are veterans, and you guys all know that my wife and I are all Army veterans too, and oddly enough, still work for the Army, at least for a few more years until we retire. But that being said, welcome everybody to the podcast presented by American Legacy Fishing, world-class fishing gear, unmatched personal service. Now, before we get to tonight's special guest, let me take a moment to tell everyone this is always a good time to join the American Legacy Fishing Elite Program. $50 to sign up for your first year. You get 25 back in Legacy Rewards, 10% back on all orders in Legacy Rewards, free shipping and access to the exclusive Facebook group and all the awesome sales that goes on. And as a lot of you know, and how I became a fan of American Legacy Fishing myself, American Legacy has the best trade-in program, and that leads to the most extension of collection of used gear that you can find online. And don't forget, if you're in the Evansville, Indiana area, you can stop by the shop and check out the newly remodeled showroom. And those of you who did that last weekend got to meet and chit-chat with one Mr. Brett Ayler. If you haven't seen that video yet from his hour-long Q&A, posted it up on the channel earlier, go give it a watch. With all that being said, let's get to our guest, Mr. Steve Owens, he got a long resume when it comes to fishing, but what he's probably most recently known for is not just being the BASSMASTER Kayak Series tournament director, but he's also a hammer in his own right and started out his year with a bang by winning an early derb. Steve, how you doing tonight, good sir?
Man, I'm doing good. I just come in off the water with a skunk. So I got to get out a little bit today with my buddy. So, yeah.
I guess if you start out the season by winning a tournament and then you follow that up with the skunk, it's still pretty good start to the season. So tell us a little bit about the tournament that you started the year with and how that went.
Yeah, that was on Lake Seminole. That was a Georgia Bass Nation, Florida Bass Nation partner event. That was the season opener, which is what we like to do in Georgia Bass Nation, is fish Seminole when you can in the wintertime. It's phenomenal fish. It's my favorite place to fish in the country. I live on Lake Chickamauga. I'm an hour and a half from Guntersville. For me, it's Seminole, Guntersville, and then Chickamauga. But I'm spoiled. I'm 2 hours from everything. But yeah, so that tournament, man, yeah, I know, man. It's like if I become a billionaire, I would still build a house somewhere around here,
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. Yeah. I mean, and that's cool too, because you guys have a little bit of everything. And like you said, a short drive away, you've got just, even that many more work, just some of the best fisheries in the country. Yeah. So a lot of my folks, the fishing fam out here that follow along, they got into fishing a few years ago and or came back to fishing. But I started the channel out by basically teaching some of the basics for those who were kind of get back into it, looking to get outdoors and away from all the rigmarole of work and everything. And me and my buddies, who neither one of my brother, who's in his other place with no internet yet, and our other buddy Matt is out on the road for work. So they left me solo tonight to pick your brain and talk a little bit about kind of what we do and getting people involved in fishing for one, and then maybe off the bank and into a kayak, just because we think it opens up the world to a whole lot of people. I was telling Steve earlier tonight that, I got started in a kayak about 10, 11 years ago because I worked on a Navy base that's got this lake on it. It's super skinny water, but loaded with giant bass. And it wasn't until the pandemic when they actually closed the base down that I started going out and kayak fishing in other locations around here and ran into some folks who said they were coming off the water fishing a tournament. And I was like, wait a minute, there's people that fish tournaments in a kayak? And yeah, 3 years later, I'm about as knee deep and chasing around, just trying to go to fish different tournaments and learn different things. And honestly, I love going to the tournaments just to meet different people as well. And
Right.
I've known, like I'm familiar with a lot of our boater guys that are in the Indiana Bass Nation around here. But then, just after kind of paying attention and doing some Heroes on the Water stuff and some stuff at KBF and others, then I realized, Bassmaster is now involved. And my brother and I have been life members of Bassmaster for forever. And, we love the fact that, last year we went to the Classic and we got to see both the kayak guys doing their thing, and then we got to turn around and see Gussie win it on the boater side. But I wanted to, I reached out to you a while back and was like, man, we got to get together one of these days. And you were able to hit me up, and I was like, I want to kind of talk about, the different Bass Nation, I don't remember call them clubs or segments in each state, and then of course we got the big trail going on too. But I guess I should back up a little bit. And for those who don't know you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into kayak fishing, let alone into tournament fishing, which, you're a hammer in your own right. And then you end up leading one of the biggest organizations there is.
I'm Steve Owens. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Basically, I grew up on Lake Nickajack, and then
Uh-oh, I hope that's not me. If you're in the chat, let me know if Steve's here or if I'm here. Okay, so he says I'm good. You're here. He's not. All right. So we'll give Steve a second to reconnect. Of course, it waits just long enough for Mr. Steve to start talking to us too. But we'll give him a little bit to reconnect. Like he said, he just got off the water, so he probably needs to connect his phone up or get connected. But I'm glad everybody's here tonight. Anyway, hanging out, and I've been a fan of Steve for a little bit. Here he comes right now.
huh.
There we go.
Well, that's odd. I don't know. So yeah. So, but in case something else happens, I grew up on Nickajack, pan fishing, and not really bass fishing. So moved up here to Lake Chickamauga. My wife works at the nuclear plant up here, and I was bank fishing. And I grew up, not really grew up, but I've been friends with a guy named Ryan Lambert for about 20 years, and we just, we fished out of his duck boat. To be honest with you, back at home on Nickajack, and
Yeah, okay.
he got in. He sold his duck boat, and he had a little girl, and she liked to get out too. She's about 3, and he said, "Man, have you seen these kayaks?" And so we lived close to Hook One when Chad Hoover and them ran it, and so he got a hold of that and went up there and bought a native FX 14, and we drove to North Carolina the next day and bought me one from a used guy and put it on top of my car and drove it all the way back home and started piddling around, and we got into kayak tournaments, and then that just stuck. We had a little grassroots club here on Chickamauga we helped start. It's part of a larger group in Tennessee called CAST. It's 11 clubs. It's one of the largest in the country. We've been going on for about 8-9 years now. And then I started working with Chad, and I ran the Chickamauga and Gunnersville KBF tournaments when they come into town. And then that just grew and grew. You meet people on the road, and then anglers started staying at my house, Jay Wallen and, AJ McWhirter and Adam Reiser and Russ and Chris, all of them. We just migrated, and, Eric Siddiqui, our house is in Chattanooga, which is on the way to everything kind of.
Yeah.
So it just grew. And when, our grassroots club grew to such a good level, when Dwayne Wally had met with Bassmaster and they decided to start a Bassmaster Trail Series, they brought me in to help build it. And so I ran the first Bassmaster Championship, which was in 2020 on Logan Martin, which Jim Davis won from Tennessee. Good, phenomenal dude, hammer himself. And then that kicked off the first season, and I ran the Chickamauga event there. Myself, Patrick Malone, who unfortunately just recently passed away, Juan Nunez, Tyler Cole. And we ran those tournaments across the country that year. And then the next year, I built the schedule for year 2, but I couldn't. COVID hit, and everything I booked had to be rescheduled.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work with my time, and we saw that it needed one person to devote a lot of attention to it, and I couldn't. So I had to step away from Bassmaster for a couple, 2 or 3 years. And in the meanwhile, we started Tennessee Bass Nation Kayak Series, and which is a feeder system for Bassmaster.
Mm-hmm.
And it grew, and I started Georgia Bass. Well, I actually took over Georgia Bass Nation. Those guys were doing a one of state championship. So in Bass Nation, you can either do a trail series with a state championship or just a standalone state championship, whichever works for your state. You don't want.
Right.
And so Georgia already had that, and then guys were really looking for a trail series, and so I started that, and here we are now. And last February I left my job. I've been a reactor operator for 28 years at a time at various chemical plants and in maintenance, and I was able to talk with Chris Bose and them at Bassmaster when, like Dwayne ran it for 2 or 3 years there. And, it's just such a load because of the travel.
Oh, yeah.
It's Turning X. Arguably, it's, in my opinion, it's the best management system we got. And it's a lot. Because, Dwayne's always readily available for anyone. Yeah. And so he was like, guys, I can't travel for these anymore, this much. And so I got with my wife, and the Lord opened the door where I could do this full time and leave the plant life. And here we are. And thankfully, with the trust you've all given me, I know I got a good resume, but one wipes around a lot of things. But the one thing I have learned is when there is an I'm just transparent about it, and we'll make it through it together. Here we are. We're going to have another 200 angler tournament to start our season off.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's amazing too.
I've done it a couple times, but it's important for me because it's a brand new experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and you probably, if you go back, you think about the history of BASS with Ray Scott and all the rich history there, and for there's a lot of fans of both BASS and MLF2, but Bassmaster being around so long, having a classic is like the Super Bowl of bass fishing, and then with the kayak guys being able to be on the same area, the same waters, a little bit before the boaters do. That really, it's like last year when we were watching, it's like the kayak guys were putting up monster numbers and, basically holding their own and then some against all the guys that were in the boats the following week. It made for a great event to be able to have the guys up on the stage that, everybody sees, to be able to see that big blue trophy, it's pretty awesome. And anybody who's a fan of BASS would really enjoy, especially that, that environment. I highly recommend if you haven't yet, you get to a classic when it comes near you. This year it's by the Lake of the Ozarks, and then they've already announced that next year it's going to be down at Fort Worth. Jeremy and I have already discussed that it does not matter what we have going on. We will be down there, not fishing in it, obviously, but we're going to definitely be down there to go and participate and be fans of both the kayak side and, the boats. It's an amazing event. And plus, anytime you can get down to Texas and fish, we're definitely going to take some time to go down there and do all that too. But, you guys have your big event coming up before too long. Is there another derb before that kicks off, or is that the next one up?
Well, a few things. So like I actually, we mentioned, all the things I got to do. I actually got to work with Hobie for some years and help AJ there. And I ran the Hobie Bass Open Series College. We both started that together. So the college series is doing really well. But no, actually, when it comes to the Bassmaster Kayak Championship, we cut up about it, but it's not the classic. It's the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship. The classic is the classic. That's the deal, But we actually fish different water than the boats. We fish on Wednesday, Thursday, and then take the stage on Friday. They fish a different body of water by design because, like you see, we don't want to be wrecking their fish when they're fishing for $1 million or however much it is,
Yeah.
But yeah, we do actually. We got a season opener on Lake Murray, like I had alluded to. It's next Saturday and Sunday.
That's the first. Okay, that's the first big. Yeah. That's the first trail there. That's the first. And for those who don't know, like a lot of the states have their state trails or state championship, but Bassmaster, the kayak series itself, has its own national trail. And yeah, Steve is 100% right. Their first one coming up on Lake Murray this next weekend. A lot of people signed up for. We know there's a lot of guys here in Indiana that are traveling around and doing that. And I definitely want to. Come on, StreamYard. Don't do this to me tonight. Thing, it's always something with the internet. Come on, StreamYard, quit doing this to me. It's having issues. We're trying to get back on. Yep. All right, it's adding up. StreamYard is just being a pain in the butt.
Phone, maybe that'll be better.
Okay, I got you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I don't know if they can see me. You're Do you have me at all?
I can see you now and hear you. Can you see and hear me?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me at all? Yeah, I can. I got
I
you.
got it.
They're saying you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's got to be something on StreamYard then. They're telling me I'm kind of jumpy. Let's All right, Lost and Tackle saying both of us are good. So Steve's on his phone. So we're gonna try to make this work.
Yeah, you keep freezing up to me. The live timer hasn't stopped at all, but you're freezing on me.
You're saying I'm not good. Let me mute me. Oh boy.
Sound all right now?
Okay, so we're both on our phones trying it. I guess we got to do what we got to do.
We're doing it the old timey way, I guess now.
Yeah, I can get the microphones out of the way and hold this up too. So sounds like wind's hitting the mic. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I think something's going on with the StreamYard app itself. So we're just gonna try to make something up and do the best we can with what we've got. If I got to get Steve back on, another time, because I really want to be able to share some stuff with you guys, especially about doing various events and whatnot. But so Steve, for those states that don't have like Bass Nation clubs in their states, but they have like boater side, how hard or difficult is it to set up, like, getting the first, kayak Bass Nation thing kind of going?
It can be challenging, and it's not anything slanted towards boats, which we call go fast, or kayaks. It's just different languages. They speak different languages than us.
Yep.
Also, one thing we got to remember is we're coming into their Bass Nation. They've already been here for however many years. So you got to have some manners about you, but there also are boat TDs that feel like they are going to have to do work. So they're kind of jerks about it. But by and large, most have been real receptive, good people. We're working on maybe changing some things next year to where we have our own system. But now that is what we are looking at. By no
Gotcha.
means is that happening. So some people have already taken that and thought that, or just, so whatever. That's not, I'll stop there, but that's, we're looking at trying to do that. But like here in Tennessee and Georgia, we have great leadership that help us in any way. Texas is good. A lot of states are really good. So if you don't have it in your state already, reach out to me. I'll get with GL Compton. He's the Bass Nation president that I work with at Bassmaster. Phenomenal dude. Took over for John Stewart, who is the one that helped, get the kayak series off the ground. Just reach out to me. We'll get with your state president. We'll look at it. The only concern and kind of troublesome thing is that we don't know the people in each state. So, I mean, you may reach out to want to start one. Well, you may not be tournament director material or organizer material. So it's really, that's a hard thing to say because you don't want to insult anyone, but also, as well as I do, when you're running a tournament, I mean, you have to check all the boxes, or at least have enough people in your group to help you check all those boxes. So that's a difficult challenge. So far, I feel like all of the tournament directors that have stepped up and started a Bass Nation are doing a good job. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because, hell, I mean, I've had to learn how to do this. I mean, it took a lot. I mean, there's a lot of uh-ohs, a lot of phone calls, being backstabbed and thrown under the bus, and then me making mistakes. But, we make up for it, so you're going to mess up, and that's okay. AJ McWhirter shared one of the most important things I think I ever can remember is when it's tournament time, things are going to happen. Just accept that. Things are going to happen. You are going to do something, not cheating, but you're going to mess up. You're going to violate a rule, and we have to just handle that situation. And that how you handle those situations is what makes your tournament series worth fishing. So, the heck fire this year in the Bassmaster, the first tournament on Guntersville, I had 3 people I had to disqualify or take their day one fish limits. And then Hartwell, I mean, I had to do it to several people, penalties and things. And then on Possum Kingdom had the same situation. It's just going to happen. And that's okay. But thankfully, and you're supposed to get pissed off. You're supposed to get upset that you got a penalty because there's an uh-oh there. But you have to have an open mind and realize that, if I make a mistake, I'm going to own up to it, and I'll share the burden. And then if you do it, you have to do the same, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's so that's the problem. That's the only kind of hang up with getting a Bass Nation started is that can this person do it? But you just have to jump in with them and help them as best that you can, and hope it works out. But so far, it's been really good. There are some states that have been pretty difficult. But there again, we had to have the uncomfortable conversations with the other side, so to speak. We're all in the same family in the Bass Nation on it. But now, like some lakes where there's permits, those get kind of tricky because, they don't want to give up those permits. And in some states, kayaking, they don't have to abide by permit laws. They can just have a tournament because they're catch photo release.
Right.
And so that gets in their craw a little bit. But, but no, man, so far it's been really good. Again, just reach out to me and we'll go over the things. Every state has their sovereignty. That's what people kind of lose sight of. They're like, well, Bassmaster is not Bass Nation. Everybody calls Bassmaster Bass. That's just the way it is. Bass Nation is a separate entity. So the states, you control your own state. Like, you don't have to go by my Bassmaster rules. You can create your own set of rules. Whatever you and your president come up with, you can do it. You can do 74 fish limit tournaments, or you can do, you can do whatever. I mean, it's just whatever you guys want to do. Right. But when you do that on the kayak side, I feel like we need a different structure. I think we need to set a parameter of whatever, and then put it into place across the board, and make it realistic and practical for everyone, only because we're new. We can minimize mistakes if we all do the same thing, I think. And so that's what we're working on, is to try to find the best format for that. I've reached out to a lot of the states to figure that out, and not penalize the states who do have good leadership, like Texas. Those guys, a lot of people complain about the dues, and I'll just say this and be blunt with it, man. Dues are here. Dues are in everything. You've got to pay dues to fish, because what that does, when you join Bassmaster, it's your $17 a year to start out or whatever. Obviously you get your baits and your prizes, but now a lot of people don't realize the discounts you get online. There's a section on the Bassmaster page that's full of discount codes. But then that's how they pay bills. Bass is a business. That's what it's here for. It's not a grassroots series. Kayaking is so rich with grassroots that we get a little agitated when fees and money come up. But I mean, that's you got to pay to play the game. And right now we're building a sponsor support so that we can have more dollars to put in. Right now we don't have a lot of sponsor support, and so that's why we're an entry fee tournament series, and it's what the payback is, and then so. But what you also get, is if you have a Bass Nation, you have a Bass Nation dues. That's not on top of. So Bassmaster is a separate company. So you pay your Bassmaster dues, then you pay your Bass Nation dues. All right. Like in Tennessee, we got a lot of sponsor support. So we don't have a state nation dues, but some states do.
Okay.
So like in Tennessee, you pay $30 and you can fish Tennessee Bass Nation. Now, once you pay your nation dues, you can fish any state in the country. You don't have to pay it again. You pay it one time. But say in Indiana, you're gonna join Bassmaster, because you have to have the two, Bassmaster and Bass Nation, to fish Bass Nation. You'll join Bassmaster, then Indiana Bass Nation, and Indiana Bass Nation may have a state dues. So your $30 nation dues may actually be $45. And so that 15 goes into the state, and you guys use that for prizes, gas money for your winners going to the championship at the Bassmaster, whatever. And but so it makes people think, there's three. You got to jump. You don't have to jump through hoops. You sign up on Bassmaster, you get that number, you call JT, the Indiana Bass Nation kayak director, send him the $30 plus state dues, whatever, if there is any, and you're done. It literally takes 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So, I mean, and really one of the reasons why I wanted to have you, on, especially when I bring up Indiana, is because, man, we have a lot of kayak anglers in Indiana that fish multitudes of we have big grassroots, organizations here as well. Plus, all of your standard, everywhere there's that does kayak too. But my big thing is for a call, maybe for one of you guys out there who's got experience of doing a lot of tournaments, who, you might be intimidated to think that, hey, I would love to have at least a state championship to come to Indiana and run the one tournament to have people be able to qualify to go to the kayak championship and, participate with a lot of others. I know we have a lot of guys that travel out of state and fish either the big trail, trying to, working on those AOY points, or they go next door to Ohio or down to Tennessee or Kentucky, and fish those events too. But man, if you're one of those tournament guys who would love to get a hold of Steve and maybe help the folks here in Indiana out, I mean, I'm telling you, that'd be awesome. I'd love to be your voice and help spread the word and do all that. I haven't run a bass tournament since me and my brother ran an Indy Bass and Tournament League years ago. But I mean, just for the folks around the state and in the Midwest, if there's somebody out there that's been thinking about it, know that you'll have a lot of support from a lot of anglers in Indiana who would love to see, an Indiana Bass Nation on the kayak side. And, that would be really cool. But, my brother and I, and a few of us love, we're going to try to pick a derb or two this year just to go support Bassmaster as well. Everybody knows we love fishing and just going out and meeting all the, the pros and hanging out with the big dogs that we all see online, the Russ Snyders and, Christine Fisher, Guillermo, and all the crew out there. dropping a hammer on them, just having a good time wherever they're at too. But, I encourage anybody out there who's maybe a tournament director in one of these spots, might have a little bit of time, maybe think about getting with Steve and, getting set up. And, it'd be kind of cool, at least if we just started with one where we had a championship here, so we could send some people to the big dance. But it's all got to start with somebody. I mean, shoot, if I had more experience at doing all this, I would even think about it too. But I've got to become, I've got to get my own feet wet and fish in more tournaments too. Even though I've fished, some of the, the KBF national championships, I need to go at least experience a Bassmaster at, a bigger event, or, one of the Bass Nation events as well. But we wanted to have Steve to come on tonight to kind of to spread the word, so that those of you who are out there, if you live in a state that has a Kayak Nation, or one of the BASS, or they even have a spot where they're the trail there, a lot of you guys out there fish the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series, or fish your state Challenge Series, KBF. It's all catch, photo, release. You've all been, taught and trained how to do it. You never know. You might be able to go show up at some lake and have the best day of your life, or win big bass. It's always kind of cool too, because I always look at bass fishing, especially bass fishing tournaments, as a great way for people to gather, get together, fellowship together, hang out. And, even if you're not winning, if you're on the water hanging out together and having a good time and catching some fish, well, shoot, you're winning in my book as it is. And, why not go out there? And we had Josh Franco on, a few weeks ago, talking about, his love of chasing smallies, and ended up going up to the Susquehanna and putting the hammer down on him. And, he's going to have that trophy sitting in his man cave on the Smalley Talk podcast for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I ran into him. He was down here a couple of weeks ago at East Tennessee Fishing Expo in Knoxville.
Yep. I'm not surprised.
For a little while. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That Achigan stuff is legit. My son, I see him. He's grown. He's cool and hip. So I sent him a picture, and he had a couple of hats he wanted. So I got him the mud bug hat. But yeah, man, I'm with you, dude. Anybody that needs anything, I'm always available. So much so that my wife has to help me set boundaries, but which I don't do well at. So as soon as she leaves, I'm right back to overload myself. But no, man, I just want people to fish. I don't care.
Yeah.
You look at me, dude. I'm a hype man. I want everybody to have fun. I want everybody to succeed. I don't care what you fish. I want you to fish my stuff, obviously. But if you don't, not that I don't care. I don't mind. I want you to fish. Okay, I just want you to fish, because the first big deal I ever did, and I don't know if you can see it, but that bass picture on the wall, that's from Rob Choi, and over there is one of the very first medallions that Catch did for Chad and them. But we went to Yak Attack used to have their annual event in Virginia. And my good buddy, Nick Brown, he used to run the KBF National Championships, and Cameron Gatlin, they live here in Chattanooga close to me. So they talked me into going to that Yak Attack tournament, and they ended up winning the overall big bass, which had never happened. And my limit was, I'm going to brag here, my limit was stupid. We only had 3 fish. Now it was your 2 best bass, 2 best bluegill, 2 best crappie for the slam, or it was your 2 best bass or 3 best bass to win the overall individual fish award. So, but I caught I think it was like a 20, 21, and a 24. And if I wanted a 5 fish stringer, my other 3 fish literally was a 19, an 18, and an 18. I mean, it was one of the most epic days of my life. And so I beat Casey Reed. That was one of the biggest things for me, because I knew Casey fished up there.
Yeah.
Now, this was a long time ago. This is probably, I don't know, 2018. And so it was like 209 or 10 people in that field. And man, I had no idea what I'd really done. But so as we're up there was a gentleman, it was a fundraiser for Heroes on the Water.
Okay.
And, I'm an emotional person. Like I cry, you kick a puppy, I'm going to punch you and I'm gonna cry the whole time. I mean, that's just the way I am. And so I'm an emotional guy. I love people. So anyway, we're there at awards and we're thanking, Luther for, which he does so much for the kayak world. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
obviously he's a business guy, but Luther does a lot for people. And so, I tell you, dude, I've gotten to work with Chad and Joe, Richard Penny, AJ McWhorter, Steve Fields, Morgan, Amanda Brannon, and Tyler and them at Native. And I work with Ryan Lilly and them at Old Town now, and then still with Hobie and the Dugout Bait and Tackle. I mean, I've got to do so much in a short time. And but so as we're at this event, and they feed you, it's a spread. So we got free beer, free booze for like 3 days. And this person gets up there and he's got prosthetics. He's a vet.
Yep.
And he shares a story like sadly has become commonplace. He was done. He was done with life. And he was getting ready to end it. And his phone rang twice in a row. So something made him answer it, and he answered it. And it was a guy inviting him to come out and kayak fish at their little derby. And so, he reluctantly, he goes, and it lights. He just liked the fellowship. And so, and dude, I'm gonna get choked up again. So for however long until he got his prosthetics, he was showing up every tournament that they had, and he was on, he had no legs. And so he was crawling. He would meet you at the ramp when you used to have the cameras, where you would upload SD cards. He would pull your kayak up out of the way while you went and checked in. And listening to that story and just realizing that what you're doing every weekend is a tournament and they are frustrating, but bottle that up and suck it up and do your job, because you don't know what you were doing for somebody else. And you may never know, but that weekend tournament that you're putting on, and by being happy and carrying on like you don't have a care in the world, but being business minded, you may be making a huge difference to somebody that weekend that could literally save their life. And so I've never forgotten that. And so that's what we do have such a veteran loaded, tournament series all over across the country. Veterans are a big part of what we do, and I wasn't a veteran. Tons of my friends, are obviously, and I mentioned Clay Ragsdale to you and sent you that link. It's just good to see that and to have people come up and thank you. And so that's why, like at our registrations at Bassmaster, you come in and you do your registration to get your identifier and everything. I'm not part of that process. I stand over to the side so that if you have questions, we're not holding the line up, number one. Yep. But number two, it's so that I have that constant engagement with you all. And so that's important. We got to learn each other and be a part of this so that, you understand, to approach people with your questions. And that's how, we make it through what we're doing. So yeah, but it's a labor of love. As I said, I'm blessed that I get to do this for a living full time. So yeah, but it's so good, and I'm nervous. I mean, I get nervous at tournaments like everybody else. I mean, because I'm sitting here waiting on one of y'all to do something wrong, and I'm going to have to correct it, and then I feel bad when I call you and say, "Hey, JT, you didn't have your dude." There was a guy last year on Lake Hartwell, brand new to kayak fishing, had just got his kayak fishing, his first tournament, had never uploaded fish. He had his identifier tag wrapped around every fish.
Oh.
So I had to disqualify those fish.
Yeah.
And of course he was upset, like he should be. He's a competitor. Yep. He understood he did something wrong. He did question, like, well, why? And I had explained to him. I said, that's just not done. It's considered a restraining device. It's, if we don't stop there, then you're going to wire tie your fish to the board so it can't jump off. I was like, and so, dude, I'm telling you, JT, I would say, if my math is correct, this boy would have finished in the top 10 for that weekend.
Man,
if he would have got those fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember my first ever, and it was the same thing. I had the fish's mouth was open, and the TD was like, hey, we got to deduct you a little bit. You got to have the mouth closed. And you learn, and you also learn that fish jump off of boards, and you want to learn how to put your net to the left hand side. But outside of all of that, especially when you're doing like the in-person tournaments, I tell you, that is some of the most fun stuff, because like the people who gather before the tournament and then even after, just hanging out and being, being around a bunch of different folks who share the same thing that you do, and it just makes it awesome. You have a lot of times you'll have people, sharing B&Bs or at a campground together. There's all that other, off the water stuff that goes on that's
Yeah.
honestly really awesome too. But, that's, and obviously we're encouraging everybody. A lot of people that follow, my challenge along know that last year I was a 350-pound dude who had maybe given up on being a little, better in shape and doing this and that too. But honestly, because I got into kayak fishing and wanted to, I kind of got the smallie bug last year. I've always chased largemouth, but I got the smallie bug last year after getting on a river one day and catching a bunch, when in the past, all I've ever caught was like little 12, 13-inch dinks. And I ain't gonna lie, dude, that changed my whole outlook on how I wanted to do it. So sure, I've lost probably, 70 some pounds since then, with another 70 some to go. But I gave up the autopilot, and actually left the Old Town Pro staff because I wanted to be able to play with different kayaks. And so I'm putting together more of a river craft this year, just to chase the smallies in a different way too. So it's kind of funny how the bug gets us, but I loved and appreciated Ryan for having me on the pro staff for a good year. Old Towns are something that I recommend, and everybody in this channel knows that I trust my life with Old Town, because I literally did. They watched me in another brand before that almost sink it, and watched me run back to Old Town. But I'm kind of playing with a few different ones too. So being more of a YouTuber than a tournament dude, I wanted to, try out some different kayaks, and we're, going to be doing that, chasing some smallmouth this year too. But that and I really want that Newport on the back to power me up the river a little better.
Yeah, it's you're right, man. I mean, because you really are entrusting your life, with these watercrafts, and it brings up a good point. A lot of people, carry on with two motors, and I think it's cool,
Yep.
and I don't have a setup like that or whatever. But I mean, one thing you got to remember as a tournament director is you're not just looking at what can we do, what's cool, what's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look out for what could potentially help someone that's uneducated, not to their own fault, but has a watercraft, a vessel that can't support two motors, because then when you get here, you got a 24 volt or a 36 volt battery, which weigh as much as a human being when you put two of them together. If you're putting that on a kayak that's less than what that can handle, the kayak can, because every kayak with a pedal drive has a hole in it almost in the middle. So you see what can happen. So, it's getting that we're pushing the envelope there, and I don't care about, budgets be damned, whatever you want to do. Whatever you'll find a way to buy what you want to buy. You just will. Because we're men, we like our stuff. We're brats. We want what we want. Like American Legacy, I can't tell you how much. Before I joined Dugout, I can't tell you how much money I spent in American Legacy. They're a phenomenal company. Because I've been an NRX guy since I got into fishing. I just got lucky. Got a couple of used ones, decently priced, and I understand, you don't have to have, but there's some things that make a difference to an extent. And so, but anyway, you get into these rigs like that. Like I just talked to a gentleman the other day out west who's got a phenomenal rig, and everybody should follow what he does, and it's great. But he admitted, I took off, I got 100 yards from the ramp, I turned right back around, went back, took my battery out, my motor off because it was too heavy. So you get out on a place like Lake Erie, and you've got somebody doing that. You're asking, you're looking for, so you have to, it's not too much to ask for you to use one motor on a kayak in a tournament.
100%.
Just like for me with the pre-fishing cutoff limits, we have that in Bassmaster. Your off limits, it's 21 days, but if you do the math, it's 14 days no fishing, 7 days of practice. So I don't think it's too much to ask that 2 weeks out of the year on one body of water is off limits, so that we can hopefully let you show up, who works for a living, can show up and say, you know what, at least I have as even a playing field as I can, There are people who can fish all week. We understand that.
Yep.
But, you know, I think that is an advantage. Time on the water is, but I don't believe in shortening it right now, because if you do, you're going to have to cut the weekend before out, which personally for me, when I traveled and fished all the time, the weekends before were the only thing I could practice. I didn't have enough time off work to take off Thursday, Friday, and then Monday. I had to take off Friday and drive straight down Thursday after work. So I didn't get to practice through the week. So I had to have that weekend before. And for me, I feel like there's more people that caters to than, you know, so there's no solution to it. There's just not. We'll go around and around about this until Christ comes back. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. But
yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, it makes sense when you had guys like Russ and oh, what was his buddy that left us to go play pickleball? You know, they would be in their vans down by the
Cody
river.
Milton,
Cody.
I talked to him today. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's the thing too. You know, you have those guys that they spend their, you know, they have the time because it's what they do, you know, and they spend that time out there on the water, you know, trying to find the very best that they can because they can. But like you said, for the guys like us who are still working 9 to 5, to be able to show up and at least be competitive, it's cool that you have that kind of little bit of a lockdown, so that you know all's fair in love and war and bass fishing for sure.
Yeah, and you can't penalize a person. Let's just say Russ. Let's just say Russ. Russ, not you can't penalize a man who works his butt off pressure washing for a living every minute he can, so that he can take off and go to these bodies of water. I mean, he works hard nonstop. You know, and so it's a perceived advantage that a lot of people, just to be flat honest, want to get grouchy about, because sometimes they necessarily can't do it, or I found myself doing it. We make excuses for why we can't do something instead of just flat out saying, like right now, people are talking, you know, and in large part, you know, the prices of kayaks, rigging kayaks, electronics are pricing us out of tournament fishing. Well, it's really not. You know, you don't, number one, you don't have to have those things. I do understand and firmly believe that forward facing sonar is a huge advantage. If you're good at it, you are going to do better. Now it's kind of like a Marine. Just because you're a Marine don't mean you can fight. You can still be a sissy and get your butt whooped. But so I mean, you got to still be able to catch fish. But the fact is that most of us who can't afford to travel right now, it's just because stuff's expensive. It's not because a kayak costs $5,000 and has $3,000 worth of forward facing sonar on it. It's because it's just tough. It's hard on everybody. That's why, you know, we're going to see numbers drop across the board, in my opinion, this year in every tournament series, just because it's so expensive. You know, we got, you know, Tennessee Bass Nation, you know, we've got 10 events because we've got a really good average here. And in Georgia, we've got 8. So, you know, that may keep you from fishing another event, you know, but I do understand not being insensitive, because I have a budget too. You know, I can't just go buy whatever I want, but I don't feel that, you know, forward facing sonar, 2 fish finders and a torpedo, that's not a reason for you to not come and fish, because I'm not saying it as an insult to anyone, but I have seen time and time again where people who don't have that hammer. Josh Counts, he's on our dugout team. I beat him. I didn't know we were fishing close to each other. So we're going back to the ramp, and Josh makes a joke because he's in the Hobie Outback. Great kayak. He doesn't have a motor. He can, but he just doesn't want one. So every time he gets beat, he says, if I'd had a motor, I won. That's just been his joke for years because of people saying that. So he just jumps on and jokes about it. But we were coming back, and, you know, here this man is in an Outback. And where he was fishing, he couldn't use his pedal drive hardly. So he's paddling, and, you know, he wins every tournament on Seminole. That day, I got lucky and made 2 moves to get out of the wind. And I was losing fish. Well, I dropped my rod and my chatterbait goes flying through the air. Well, I grabbed that chatterbait like an idiot. And for whatever reason, it didn't stick in me. And I was like, that hook should have hurt. I had a dull hook because you're fishing pad stems. So that when you get hung up, and I switched chatterbait. Next 5 casts, I had a 17, 18, and a 19. And so I fished and fished and fished and fished, and the wind kept blowing me. I was in my pro angler too with my Torpedo, and the wind kept blowing me to where I couldn't fish. So I left and went back out to the main lake. And my buddy Casey, who picked our ramp because he grew up fishing down there because I told him, you pick the ramps. I judge a lot of tournaments, used to. Now I hire all that out. But, I fish Seminole a lot. So on Seminole, I fish one spot only. I've cashed 2 checks there in the Hobies before we had Bassmaster and all that, before I started Georgia Bass Nation and started judging tournaments on Seminole. So I told Casey, I said, look, you pick the ramps, and that's where we're going to fish. So he did. And so I found an area, talked to a gentleman on Friday, and he said that's kind of where he fished. So I said, dude, you come on out and I'll fish somewhere else. And so we got there that morning, and the duck hunters were everywhere, which is fine. They should be there too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I kept floating into their range. And so we were communicating. I was like, guys, am I really? He said, yeah, you're pretty close, And I said, all right. So I just left.
Yeah.
Well, they said they'd probably be leaving about 10 a.m. So I came back out there about 11, and they were gone. And Casey was probably 100 yards past where I had stuck a 21 3/4 and a 19 practicing. And so he was south of me, just wrecking them. So I was like, well, if he's catching them so I went back to my spot and just started drifting. And they were there. I caught a dozen in like 3 hours, and they were all big. And so that's how it worked. But so Josh, to my point, was 300 yards from me, and I never saw him with his paddle out. And I'm not using names like Russ and Drew because they're nationally known. Josh Counts lives in Florida and can catch them anywhere in the country. You don't have to have it. I feel like when we see these things, we may want them, or may not like that they've crept into kayak fishing. And that's the thing, and I think Chad may have mentioned this a couple of years ago. We had a discussion about some things. Yes, motors, fish finders, sonar, live scope. That's not the essence of kayak fishing,
right?
But it is what kayak tournament fishing is.
Yep.
So Kent Van over here in Tennessee runs a Bare Bones Kayak Series. It's pretty successful. It's nothing but a paddle. I don't know if you can have pedal drives or not. Maybe pedal drive, but no sonar. Nothing like that. And they have a blast. But when it comes to national things, you have to just kind of, erase some connotations that you have when you look at it, because when it gets to this size, you have to allow the things, because that's just what people want. And so what I say to that is, that's, start something on your own. I don't like that 1,000 kayak clubs can start up, and then because what that does is spread us all thin, and then it makes, like I'll just tell you my goal. I want us to build a legitimate series where, men and women can fish for a living. But in order to do that, we have to have sponsor dollars. And the only way we have sponsor dollars is for you guys to do what you do. It is promote products and show that you're going to give a return. My job at Dugout Bait and Tackle is I work with the industry reps to partner our anglers with Shimano, Daiwa, and Garmin and all of that. Because we sell a lot of product, and through that, we built relationships. But the one thing that people do as a disservice to us as kayakers is when they get on these pro staffs, it's, well, what can they give me? If you knew, you do know, because cost of things. If you knew how many kayaks you had to sell to make up what a pro staffer might get if they get to fish out of a kayak for free. You've got to sell 4 kayaks to pay for the 1 kayak you're getting to fish out of for a year. Well, you do the math on 4 kayaks, that's 20 grand. So when you get these pro staff deals, you got to treat it like a job, because if American Legacy gives you 4 Corrado rods that are $200 a piece and 4 SLXs that are $150 a piece, you got to sell 20 NRXs for them to break even off of what
Oh,
they give.
100%. Yep.
And that's what people don't, and it's not their fault. They don't know these things. And so that's my job, is to explain that to our anglers, and they do a great job,
Yep.
And we get a good return from and feedback from the industry reps that we market with. So, but that's
Yeah,
what you need to do to grow the kayak sport is, and it's sound, and I hate to say it like this, but you've got to show that we can bring money to their door. You just have to. You just have to.
It's funny because it's like I was with the Old Town Pro staff for 1 year. I never took advantage, not a single one, of getting the kayaks at a discount. I almost did this year, but it was one of those things where, I had bought a top water back when that was my first one, a 10-foot top water that I threw in the back of the truck after starting out with, like, the Sun Dolphin and the Walmart yaks that we all started with 10 years ago. And then, the next, after a year or so, I went up to the PDL 106. And then, after last year, I went up to the autopilot. But for me, it was, I love everything about Old Town and everything that they do. And like I said, I've trusted my life, which means when I'm putting my name behind it, I'm trusting the life of another fellow veteran or somebody else who maybe not in the top peak, because a lot of people think, oh, I don't need a life jacket because I don't need a PFD because I can swim. You've got a lot to learn, and that's what we really like to stress. But it's one of those things where a kayak of all types, and we don't tell people just to go out and jump into $5,000 kayaks. You can start. Our good friend OEF5, who is disabled veteran, bad shoulder and all that. He's been paddling his bona fide RS 117 for the last 3 years, and been on Kentucky Lake, been on Gunnersville. He's out there doing his thing, and so we try to steer people towards a little bit. We try to steer people towards a little bit better kayaks just to get them started. But I mean, realistically, you find something good and quality and get on the water and get started too. I know there's a lot of talk in the chat with our good friend Debo's Fishing out there, who's like the king of bank angling, and we're trying to get him in a kayak to open up his world a little bit too, because he's got a nice big following, like John over at Creek Fishing Adventures. And it's like, ever since he's gotten a kayak, I know he's pulled a lot of people over into join us in the kayaks as well.
Yeah, like John. I don't know. Do you know John Lessman?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, you'll probably meet him when you come back to Gunnersville. John, he's a vet from down in Alabama. He's got a bum leg, and he's, I'm 6'2.5", about 280, and John's a bigger man than me. And from day one, he's paddled a bona fide, and a bona fide is a beast to paddle. It just is. Yeah. And then he eventually got a motor, and so you can do it. You can do what you can do it. Just get people in the water. I don't care what you buy. Get a good life jacket and a kayak cushion to save your spine, and then move on from it. So, like what you mentioned just about the camaraderie, like I don't even remember what it was you put out. It was a while back, but then I was like, oh, that's cool, because I saw you were fishing with a blue band rod, which I love. So I was like, all right, so I followed you, and then you posted something, and I was like, okay, this dude's coming out of Gunnersville. And I had made it a point. I was wanting to just drive down. I just wanted to meet you because you lived where you lived, and you were driving down to Gunnersville to fish a tournament, Yep. And so, and I don't know why we just get drawn to people, but yeah, that's just the good thing about our sport. And, I don't really have self-confidence in much that I do. That's why I'm glad I got the network that I do, because they tell me, they say, hey man, you need to, do this, because I just kind of put my blinders on and go. And so I have to have that feedback to tell me, I can read a room, I really can, but I need that feedback to tell me, maybe you need to go this way with it. And so, and I listen, because I'll just tell you, I'm very good at being wrong. And so I don't mind that feedback. I have to have it, I don't take it personal. And then I need people to tell me when I am doing well with it, because I just do. That's my job in life, is to just do. I'm going to share my burdens and what I've done wrong, so that hopefully you don't repeat it. But then I'm just going to do things. And so that feedback is like with this classic here, this BASSMASTER Kayak Series Championship at the Classic. everybody's like, well, where are we going to fish? I don't care. Wherever when we get a general consensus, they've given me the freedom to go outside of the area that the Classic is in and recruit tournament waters. If the top 10, which we don't know who they are, the reason we want to stay close to the championship location for the Classic is that whenever we're done fishing Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to have to be there Friday to be on stage.
Yeah.
So if we're in Dallas, Fort Worth, and we fish Lake Gunnersville, you're not going to Texas to be on the stage. You just can't afford it. Your wife's not going to let you do it. So we want to keep it pretty close, but they understand. And so far, even when I wasn't, working there, they've nailed, in my opinion, the championship lakes. We were concerned, down in Texas, in which the flooding happened, thank goodness, and it moved us to Possum Kingdom, and we discovered that jewel. But then when they fished the lake in South Carolina, Lake Russell, I was kind of like, well, whatever. I didn't know much about it. And Jamie Koza owns the Dugout Bank Tackle. He's fished everywhere up in the Southeast. He said that lake's got them. And then boom, they caught them. And they caught them good, and Siddiqui won it. I mean, it was a good, and our buddy, Johnny Mitchelling, and make sure I got his last name right. he finished high up there too, and that's an angler from Ohio, and Johnny's from PA or wherever. I mean, or New Jersey or something. I don't want to misspeak. He'll get mad about that too. But it just shows, man, they did a good job. And, it's hard. It's hard to get chambers to commit to hosting fishing tournaments. It really is.
Yeah.
I helped through the connections I have before I got at Bassmaster. We reciprocated, I've actually gotten 5 or 6 tournaments this year and last year booked for them on the college and high school series that I was contacts that I had formulated and extracted through my years of tournament directing. And they've done the same, like I don't care to share in 25. I hope we get one more event, obviously we need a couple in the Southeast, 1 or so in Texas. We need a Mid-East. We need to creep closer to the true Northeast. Yeah. And as our tournament averages grows, and of course we need a Midwest, Midwest, in my opinion. So perfect scenario, I would love to have 7, but I mean, it's expensive to put on a tournament. It is. Yeah. Bass is 80-20. They take 20% of the payout of the entry fees to cover expenses. And we still don't cover expenses. So that's the bottom line. And so attendance does drive it, but you all creating that buzz, you have no idea how many reps reached out to me at Knoxville this last Bassmaster Classic and said, dude, them freaking kayakers were everywhere. They took notice. They did. And so at Bassmaster, we're working on making it where packages are affordable for those kind of sponsorships. And so as that grows, and again, you can be pissed off because things don't happen, and you should, because it means you care. Yeah. But have the understanding that if it don't happen this year, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means we're a little closer, because I'm not giving up. You won't run me away. You won't. This is what I do for a living. I'm one of the most blessed people that I know for what I get to do. And you're not taking it. I'm not giving it up without a fight. So I'm going to continue to try to carve out what we need in our sport now. And that's why I have to listen to so many people, is because, the more opinions you have, and then I lead by what I feel like the Lord's leading me to go after. But yeah, the more people we have involved in this, the better it's going to be, because one person can't do it all. It takes every one of us. And that's, my dugout hashtag is we, not me. And it's because it's always we, if you succeed, it's because maybe that person gave you a good talk last week that got your head out of your butt, we got to have our support systems. So
I tell you though, I've said it for the last few years, and it's one of the biggest differentiators I see from even the different styles of like you said, fast and slow. The kayak community as a whole is made up of just some of the best down to earth. I mean, just salt of the earth, great people. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I love watching from afar. Somebody's asking where state Steve from. He lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. but just everybody that I've met, and like I go into this as being a fan. So like when I went to my first KBFNC, getting to meet Christine Fisher and Matt Ball and Jody Queen and Gene Jensen and Chad, just everybody that's there, and even all the vendors. I mean, everybody talks to you like you're somebody, even though you're just a guy who's there to participate, to hang out,
Right.
to experience it. I mean, it's like I tell a lot of people, it's like I could, if I ever, when I go show up at my first Bassmaster event, for me, it's like I got a lottery ticket to the Super Bowl. I just get to go play, and I'm that rookie who steps onto the field for the first time and looking around, and there's Troy Aikman and Joe Montana, and I don't know, it's Christine and Guillermo, just these they're and it's like, I remember my brother and I talked to Russ Snyder's, have no idea who he really was while he was out just slaying them. And Jeff Little we got to know who Russ was because Jeff was following him around with a camera. And then we got to see that footage, leading up to it too. And it's like, dude, we just talked to this guy for like an hour. And he was like, he was the most salt of the earth. So then when we saw him again in Knoxville for the Classic, and he was fishing that there too, when they shut off the leaderboards, it was wild because I was like, we run into him at the Dakota Lithium booth, and I was like, "Hey, bro, did you catch that? Did you catch that last keeper?" And he just smiled. And my brother and I are like, "Oh man, he's in it." But I mean, and that's the cool thing too, is because it's one of those things where we can look up to and appreciate what these guys do day in, day out, traveling the country, putting that work in. But we as just regular anglers, just to be able to sit there and talk to them, and they literally will talk and tell and share everything. Just the most likable people. I like following Jordan around in his adventures, and when I ran into him down there at Knoxville, he said I bet I sat there and talked to him about rods and reels or whatever for like 20 minutes.
Dude,
So it was kind of cool. But I just love the fact, and then I love that we're starting to see even the pros step back into our direction. I'm a big fan of Carl Jacobson. I mean, his story is just incredible. Yes, sir. His story to me is incredible. So, I mean, whatever he's doing, other than fishing out of a Hobie, because that's not my boat, but it's just, just the determination and the heart and everything that it took for that dude to come here and do what he did. It's just phenomenal. But I always love following the adventures, and I tell people, go out, you can do this too. If I can do it, if my brother and I can do it, my Freedom Squad is like our team of 3 that we travel around and do all this kind of stuff. And it's it's just our way of getting out and supporting each other, but then encouraging others to come out and say, hey, if these old farts can go do it, you can too. And the fact that we have a sport that kids are able to go to college for, and fish in college in a kayak or a boat, and they come out and play in playing these bigger derbs too, hey, more power to you, because we're big fans of Jackson and the oars, and it's just fun to see everybody get out and do this. And even and folks, I still tell y'all, check out your local clubs if you want to do more than just fishing like in the online tournaments. Find some of the kayak clubs that might be in your area and go play in them too, because it's really cool. It's a great way to get a group of folks together and just go have some fun. Trying to see if we've got any. I know we have some folks are saying they're about 30 minutes away from Dugout, the best store in Georgia. Yeah, oh yeah.
Hey, we appreciate that, man. We've got some good stuff in this area, man. We really do. We've got a lot of good shops. I mean, I love Dugout. That's why I've been a part of it for almost 4 years. And make sure when you come in there, if you hear somebody on our staff say, Andy Middleton, mentioned such and such, throw their names out there, because that helps the staff, because the more you do, the more that we connect. So if you're on the team, and I'm speaking to kayakers, because you said you got a lot of new people here. If you're on a team or you join a pro staff, the best thing you can do is look around your local area, find a soft plastics company, go to that person and say, hey, here's what I do. You still should buy your product, because that person works for a living too. A lot of them will give it to you at cost within a boundary, so get you couple soft plastic, couple packs of green pumpkin, watermelon red, whatever, lizards, worms, Cinco's, craws, or whatever. And then, just start making Facebook posts about it. You don't have to be on the level of Christine Fisher or Greg Blanchard. Just do it, because it's kind of like when you want to change your surroundings, you start with your home, your city, your state, your country, then the world. Do that for yourself. And you're not doing it so that me or JT is like, hey man, you did a good job. You're doing it because that person that gave you those baits at a discount or free, trusted you to work for them, to help them, get new customers. And then so just start by doing that, and just be honest with it. And if you don't like the stuff, just part ways, don't promote it if you really don't believe in it, because people will tell, and then from there, you make sure that, you send people to them. Like every time we do a tournament recap, that's the reason we tag all of the sponsors. It's because, those sponsors, I had a guy say, well, but they get it at a discount. Well, that's true. But I'm sitting here giving away 3 St. Croix Avid X rods that are $180 a piece. Well, that $180 rod costs the shop $110. So yeah, they got it at a discount, but he still just gave away $330 worth of rods, So, it's still at a cost. And again, it's like, so, so don't get caught up in the, you got to make a huge return. Just do your job. Because we have anglers on our team that we don't get feedback from people that say, hey, John Doe sent us in here to buy this. But we see what they're doing. They're working. When they're at a tournament, they've got the dugout jersey on, and so they're advertising for us. They're showing. And so we may not can quantify it, but who's working. It's a small community. The fishing world is so small. People think, because it's $1 billion of industries, it's still very, very small, very small.
Yeah.
So
it's funny too, because I talk a lot, a lot of people, it's funny, the folks that my wife works with, oh, your husband's a YouTuber, huh? How's that big fat YouTube money? Oh, let's not pretend that I'll ever see enough to cover what I've put in laptops, cameras. I don't know how many GoPros I've dumped in the water. It will always be an expense. But the fact that I actually take the time to do this allows me to partner with companies like American Legacy Fishing, so I can play with some cool gear. And they had an open house this last weekend where they gave away like a Daiwa Steez rod paired with a Daiwa Zillion. So like you said, they take care of their customers too. But it's a way to save people money. Everybody knows that I've fished out of Old Town for the last 3 years because I was a customer of Old Town long before I joined the pro staff, and I didn't stay with the pro staff long enough to even make use of a discount. It's stuff that I believe in. Everybody knows that I throw a stupid tube made by Secret Lures. Why? Because they catch me fish. It's just, and I go to American Legacy and buy them too. So, I mean, that's just one of those things. But yeah, if you've got companies and local bait makers that do, that have baits, even if you're not working for them, share it with other people, because you're helping another American small business stay in business in tough times, which is what we really, really want to do. That's why everybody knows when I'm talking about, kayaks and this and that, made in America, kind of, keeping it close, supporting the guys like Yak Attack and Brandon over at Kayak Cushion, those businesses that are here and keeping it here, and not just, shipping them in from overseas too. But it makes it awesome too. But Steve, I don't want to keep you too long, because man, I appreciate the all kinds of time that you've given us tonight. But I do want to encourage everybody, if you're out and about, and you got a bass event near you, go check it out. Even if you feel like you're too new to it to go fish one of the events, go to one of the big events just to hang out, see the sponsors that are there, see the big names that are there, go to the award ceremony, do stuff like that. You don't have to be always on the water in doing all that too. Sometimes you can just go be a fan and help promote the sport that way too, because the more, as we always hear, rising tides raises all kayaks, and that's exactly what we want to do.
Yep. Well, man, I appreciate you having me on. I'll be welcome to come back anytime you'll have me. And anything I can ever do to help you, man, just reach out and we'll work together on it. And hopefully I can see you and your brother can fish next year in the BASSMASTER Kayak Series Championship. Just come out and qualify. That's all you got to do.
That's where we're going to work on too, and even that we're going to try to get out and around more. Even though we're doing a lot of recreational fishing as well, we want to get out and get on the water with guys like you and in these destination lakes like Chick and Gunnersville, and we've been pretty much hunkered down here in Indiana for decades, raising kids and this and that. Now that we're getting a little older, and we get a little more traveling. My friends like to call it folding money. You get a little bit of fold money, and you get to go out. You get to go out and travel a little more.
Yeah, that's what I call it. Big head bends and folding money. So yeah, just reach out, man. If you're traveling, I've tried to, Sassy Dan, that's my partner in crime in all of this, Daniel Davis. We try to front load or back load these travel trips where we can spend a couple of days somewhere. So reach out and we'll connect if we're on the road somewhere. Again, I work from home now and do this for a living. So if you're coming this way somewhere, there's got to be somewhere we cross paths. So yeah, y'all just reach out.
And I've got family in Chattanooga. I've got family in Knoxville. I've got half of our Indiana clan have moved down, a long time ago down to Tennessee. So I got a lot of Balls fans down there.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. I appreciate you, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, good sir. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank y'all.
All right, everybody, that's Mr. Steve Owens. Thank you so much for taking the time out of the day watching this. Sorry we had to do the stream from our cell phones. Hopefully this came through okay. Don't know what was going on there, but we made it work. And again, get out there and do your thing. And we've still got, I mean, it's only February. We still got a little bit of time before we even start fishing here in Indiana. Even though Jeremy did catch his first fish of the year over on bogs, we probably should have, went to a river instead of the lake. But, who knows what's going on with our systems with StreamYard, but hopefully we'll get that worked out and we'll get that going too. But for those of you that are members, I appreciate your feedback. We're going to take it into consideration. But for those who are coming in a little bit later, we're going to kind of move away from the two brothers fishing, the Hickman Outdoors, all of that stuff. Jeremy, Matt, and I are all going to lean in on building up the Freedom Squad with our own channels, with the podcast, with the Facebook group, and things like that too. For everybody who's never been here before and who was here because Steve was joining us, welcome along. The YouTube channel itself is Fishing with Gramps, probably Freedom Squad Fishing with Gramps before too long. I'm trying not to name change on everybody too much. I know it drives a lot of my friends crazy when we rename too much, but we are really going to lean in on building up the Freedom Squad. That's you, the fishing fam, are the Freedom Squad, because you support what we all believe in and the movement that we're trying to build. So that's literally what we're going to put all of our time and efforts into. Sure, we're going to fish some tournaments because they're fun. Guys like Steve and Chad and everybody that make that kind of stuff fun too. But we're going to be doing some outdoor adventures, some camping, traveling different places to fish too, and really promoting the outdoors as a recreational therapy. And it's not just for veterans, even though that's our primary focus. It's for anybody who really needs to just go and clear your head out in that space. I really appreciate Steve. He reached out to me and asked to come on, and that just knocked me on the floor that we have a guy who is as busy as he is that just wanted to come out and talk to the fishing fam and encourage everybody to go try, go try getting into a little bit of tournament stuff, or at least just getting out on the water and having some good fun, because that's what it all comes down to. So thanks everybody for joining in. Matt's on the road. Jeremy's up at his old place, but we're going to be settling down here before too long. And my youngest is back there is talking about somebody say camping. He knows exactly what we're talking about. But I thank everybody for following along tonight. I got some more guests coming up. We're getting on the schedule. I've reached out to Ryan Dahl over in Ohio, who is a hammer with the smallies. Reached out and got Mr. Ben Nowak scheduled to talk about some smallies. And then if you follow Bass Thumbs Fishing on YouTube, we're going to have him come on to talk about this beautiful bona fide PWR 129 that he has got rigged out. So we're actually going to have him come on and his kayak rigger to talk about all the magnificent stuff they did with this new bona fide kayak he's got. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen pictures of it or any of the clips on his Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, oh my goodness, you need to go check that out. And I saw that Josh Trenko shot me a text, but I don't want to. Okay, I'll get back to him in a second. So I want to make sure I keep you guys here before I lose you. But again, yes, I did say bona fide. Jeremy and I are still waiting on our our kayaks to be built and get picked up. If you're around the Midwest, the Indiana Boat Sport and Travel Show is this weekend. Freedom Squad. At least two of us. Matt's still out of town, but we'll see if he's going to be back. Me and Jeremy and maybe Bobby, I think, will be there on Saturday, because that's going to be the day that most of the people are going to be there. Gene Jensen's going to be there. I really want to meet Drew Gregory in person, even though he's been here on the live stream. Matt's saying he's hoping that he'll be there too. So yeah, we're going to be there on Saturday. Don't know what time. I'll probably try to get up there early. I'm feeling a little fitter, so I can, be on my feet a little more and see a little more than I did last year. I'm kind of jacked about that. But man, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody that can be there. Sly Fox said he can't be there because his back is screwed. Hey, brother, you got to get healed up because we got someplace to be in April. That is faux show. Saw Caroline caught her first fish of the year, I believe. Posted that up on Instagram. If you're able to get out on the water, man, I'm jealous. Like I said, I went out once in the boat, got skunked, but Jeremy got the skunk out of the boat by catching a nice dinker for catch 22. So yeah, it was fun. But we'll continue bringing you guys a bunch of lives. I'm going to reach out, and if you guys have ideas for people that you'd like me to talk to, like in the kayak space, I'm going to actually reach out to Romel at Newport Motors and try to get him to come on to talk about, the different styles of motors they have for kayaks and things like that, because they make all kinds of electric power stuff. That would be kind of cool too. But I've got some other folks that I want to reach out to that are in the kayak accessory kind of thing too. And, it's kind of cool because I'm always trying to get ahead of what people are doing and everything too. And plus we know the classic's coming up. So it's be time for me to reach out to our good friend over at Lou's to see what he can kind of tell us out ahead. So I'll try to reach out to Mr. Tom Brubaker and see what Lou's has got cooking on. As Lou's and Strike King might have going on too. So I'm going to be busy trying to get people booked. I'll be doing some filming at the boat show to try to, see who we run into and talk to, and, see if we can find some more people to come on and talk to us on the live streams. Other than that, I got some videos that are going to lead into, spring fishing for those of us up here in the Midwest. We know everybody, down there is already smacking them down south. But, I've got some new baits to talk about, some baits that came out late last fall that I want to kind of talk about, had success with, down on the road too. So with that being said, probably running low on camera juice, and StreamYard looks like it's still acting up. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Sorry for all the technical difficulties, but thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully it came through okay. I love you guys. Thank you for all the support. And as always, get outside when you can and make some memories, just like Freedom Squad does. One cast at a time. Thank you, everybody. Peace.